Hey guys, back again. So I have some time now, so let's keep going with what we have. So the next step after adding everything here inside the index is to start with Sequelize. I already have Laragon open. Let's start all, and we're going to, let me just minimize the OBS, okay, and put the other stuff. Okay, so let's just go to Sequelize. Okay, I have this. Sequelize. So what Sequelize is going to allow us is to handle different types of relational databases, okay, like Postgres, MySQL, MariaDB, SQLite, and MSQL. That we are not going to need to change the syntax or anything. Okay, everything is going to be done under the hood by Sequelize. So we just only need to install it, which we already have, and install the drivers. So let's say Sequelize. Let's go to version 6, and let me see if I find something useful right now. Okay, so you can see you need to install, okay, you also have to manually install the driver for your database of choice. So we're using MySQL 2 for MySQL, okay. So if you're using or planning to use something in the future like MariaDB or Postgres, so you will need to just come here and run any npm install for the driver that you require, okay. And the syntax or whatever we're going to do in the next steps is just going to be the same. So let me just close this, and we already have Sequelize installed. Let me just show you. Okay, here version above 6.3.5. So let's close this one. Let's go back to index, and first of all, let's make a new folder called config. Add a new file which I call Sequelize config.js. So in this file, we're going to add an object. I'm just going to copy this because, okay. So this is going to be an object with this constant connection. No, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to, okay. And let me make this bigger. So we have the development, the test, and the production, okay. So these are the different environments on which you can add. For example, if you have everything ready to be deployed, then you will add your instance maybe of I don't know, whatever you have in the cloud. Here, the name of your database, your user, your password, and the domain. Okay, so that's essentially all there is to do here. So since we're going to use development, you can see that I have the same for all these three because I don't have anything deployed. So everything is in place, so you can just change to production, and you will see how to select between each of these and handle the specific configuration that you need. In this case, it's going to connect to a database called posts with the username root. There's no password. The host is my local host, and the dialect is MySQL. Okay, so let me just come here, say database. Let's wait that, and let's click this one, and I have my new database. Let's use this one and add it here, my new database. Okay, and save that. So that's everything we need to do there. Now we need to add a new folder called models, and the models are going to allow us to structure the data in the tables as we need. So let's create first, let's create the actual models first. Let's say post.js, and let's create a new one called user.js. So what our post and our user is going to look like. Let me just say module that exports equals. So we need to add here Sequelize and the data type, so we can extract the types from there. It's not like this, sorry. This is a function. Okay. And here inside, we're going to add whatever we are going to need inside our model. So we will require for the post a title, content, cover URL name, URL, sorry, and a cover name. Okay, I mixed those two. So this is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to add the type. You can check the docs for the models to add more stuff if you need. Sorry, I just work out, so I'm still tired. So usually I at least speak a little better. So here we extract the type, and we say for the title we want the type from the data types a string. So the title is going to be a string. Why is this complaining? I don't have the. Okay, let me just. Okay, because I missed something there. Constant post with a capital P equals to Sequelize define, and we say post, and now we start passing, as I said, the data types. Let me just copy that, and we shouldn't get any error. Okay, so we're going to do the same for the other ones. I'm just worrying about what type these properties are going to be. So I'm just going to say data type for text. For content, it's going to be text. If I add a string, it's going to be or it's going to allow way less characters. Okay, so if I add text, then we can add paragraph and bigger text than just a string. Okay, so at the end, we're going to return the name of this model and the schema, or how we want it to look like, and this is the post that we're going to return. This structure that we defined is what we're going to return inside the schema. Okay, nothing too hard there. You just need to say what you want. If you want required, if you want unique, we should be able to add unique. Okay, I don't have for some reason the IntelliSense there. But well, let's just move on with this, and you should be able to get something. Okay. Sequelize model basics. You can say type allow null. Okay, if you don't want the default value to be null, then you can allow or disallow that. Okay, and we should see other stuff. They should have something else. Timestamp graded at, but this is for the. No, it should go there still. Well, as we go, you can see you can add default value. as we go further and further deeper into Sequelize and all this kind of intermediate advanced stuff, we will start adding more concepts into this, more advanced stuff. So don't worry too much about this. This is just an introduction, and you should be able to continue if you want with the documentation. So we already have the post, okay, the structure. We want a title, a content, the cover URL, sorry, and the cover name. Okay, let's just keep it like that. I don't have camel case here, but let's just keep the name in there. And we want the user to have something similar. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it. So here you can see that we want the email to be unique, and we don't want to allow null values inside or the something like this. Okay, we don't want this inside the table where the password is. So we want to have a real value. So that is what we're going to do. It's the same. We export this function that is going to import or get us the Sequelize object, although it's not saying that. We're going to define the new model, okay? And we use the same name to define it. So inside the object, we pass the email, password, avatar URL, and avatar name. These are the properties that are going to be turned into the columns inside the table. The same for this. So we will have a column called title, another one called content, and so on. Okay. So you can see that the only stuff here different is the unique true and the allow null false. For everything else, I'm just worrying that we want that to be strings. We don't want that to be text because we don't expect an image to have, I don't know, like 1,000 characters. Okay. So yeah, that's the same stuff, and we return the name of the model and the schema. This is how we are going to call it, and the schema, that is the structure that we want to apply to that model. Okay, so we have that. There's not much into this, and we need one more thing. Let's add an index.js index, okay, and we need to load these models into Sequelize, so Sqlize understand what we want to do. Okay, and also if we have some I forgot the name. Let me see if I can find it here. Sequelize relationships. I think it's called relationship associations. Okay, so something like this. Okay, we also need to add them inside this index. Instead of adding those here, let's saying user belongs to, or I mean a post belongs to a user. Okay, I don't want to import Sequelize or the other model here. What I'm going to do is add the structure here, so Sequelize understand all the associations and add them before it creates the tables. Okay, so let's just add it by hand. Let's make this bigger. Constant fs file system equals to require. So we require file system from node. Constant Sequelize. We want this to be a capital Sequelize equals, and we require here the Sequelize module itself. Constant config. We require the configuration that we added before inside config and Sequelize config. We create a new object here and we assign that to models. And the last one is going to be Sequelize connection equals to new Sequelize. So we are going to initialize Sequelize here, config that development, right? What is this config development? You can see that this config is requiring the file, okay, that we have here. And since this is an object and we have all the stuff we need here, then we just apply the name that we want to use. For example, I can just remove this and say I want it to be production, or I want to have some testing stuff. Okay, so here we're going to use development. Remember that each one of these is going to have different configuration depending on what you need on each of these. If you want to add staging, okay, then you can just add it just like that and continue with your staging development. So file system read dir sync, okay, so we're going to pass the dir name, the directory on which we are, and we're going to apply the filter. So we're going to check for the file that index of. So let me just type this, and essentially I'm just going to tell you what this is going to do. So we're not going to read the index.js. We're going to read everything that is inside the models folder, the folder on which we are. We're going to read the post and the user, okay? And any other model that we apply or that we add there. Then for each file that is not the index, essentially, we're going to say let model equals to require plus file Sequelize connection, and we pass Sequelize capital. Okay, so we're going to feed the Sequelize, to Sequelize the files that are the models, okay, and it's going to say, let's say model that name equals model.schema. Although here we're applying the name to be the name of the schema. Okay, but that is going to be the same. Here, even though we can say console.log models, and this should work unless I mess up the typing here. So essentially, what we need to do is to tell Sequelize where we want the associations and which models we want to load. Okay, so we're going to load every model that we have inside this specific folder that is the models folder. Okay, that's why we're using dir name, and every file essentially that is not the index.js or that doesn't have a dot, then we're going to read that and take it as if it is a schema. Okay, so here we add the associations because here we already fed to Sequelize and the configuration each of the models that we find inside this folder. Okay, now it sounds weird, but it's just the way you can do it. And we can say model post belongs to. Okay, let me just move this one below. Okay, for some reason sometimes it just doesn't grab the copy, so let's just type it again. Belongs to models that a user and models that user that has many model that post. Okay, so a post belongs to a user, and a user can have many posts. Okay, that's essentially it. Those are the associations, and you can add more. So you can just check the, let me see if I can find this. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I don't have too much time now to spend looking for the stuff since I have to work in a bit. Has one. Okay, so we have here special methods mixins, associations referring in pairs, associations, aliases, and custom foreign keys. Okay, yeah. Okay, maybe we can just add another video later to check how because they have a ton of stuff. This is pretty amazing stuff that they have here, but I can't remember what it is because they even have a ton of functions that you can use before sending stuff. You can add bulk queries, and that helps a ton. So yeah, let's just leave it like that, and you can just research, do your research there. So module that exports. So I'm going to do a couple of these. We're going to export the models, and I can do one more. And I want to export the Sequelize connection because this connection already have the where we want it to be, okay, the configuration, and it already has, or yeah, it already has the models inside, okay, and also the associations. Let's say here ASOCs. It's like this, right? Well, I don't know. Sorry, my bad English there. So, or excuse my bad English there. So let's just let's keep this one open. So we have, let me just move this one here, and this should work. But we need to go to the index. Let me just search for the index on my other screen, and we're going to just say Sequelize sync. Okay, so we already have Sequelize here. No, we need to import Sequelize. Let's say constant Sequelize connection equals to require models and the index. Okay, that should be all that we need to require. And we say, okay, we already had that. Let's just remove this one from here. And I don't know why this one is below. So let's just move it up here. Okay. And okay. Now we just need to add one more line that is Sequelize connection that sync. You should be able to sync. Okay. And let's see if this works. So this is not working. So let's say not def index, and let's see what happens. Okay, you can see executing create table if not exists users. Where is creating that? Let's go. I have this open. So let me just refresh this. You can see we created posts and users inside my new database. Sequelize is creating that using the configuration and the models we have. Again, we're using the development. That's why we are going into my new database. Okay, we have these credentials, and that's why it's connecting. So we don't have to do anything there, as you saw. It's getting the models, and we have the email, password, avatar URL, and avatar name. Let's check these ones. User. Okay, I can double click that. Yep. And let me just go to data, and you can see this better. This is a unique, forgot the unique property. Okay, so only we're going to allow unique emails here. So we have the email, password, avatar URL, and avatar name. It already adds created ad and updated ad, and our primary key is the ID. Okay, so we don't have to define much of this stuff. Sequelize already does that for us, but we can define what we want as primary key and foreign keys. Okay, and we can see post. We have the ID, title, content, cover, URL, cover name, created ad, updated ad, and the user ID. Why we have a user ID? Because the post is going to be associated to a user. Okay, that's what we are defining inside the post. Okay, so you can see what we're adding. So let me just go back here. No, to index, sorry. And this should give us, okay, it's not consoling that. Okay, okay. You can see it's consoling these models, how we are going to access them and how those are called. Okay. So, and also, as I said, we are defining here that a user, or I mean a post, belongs to a user. Okay. It's using the foreign key to get those two together, so we can define a user and look it, I mean a post, sorry, and look it using the user ID. So we can retrieve every post that is created by certain user. Okay, so that's essentially all we need to do. And let me just do something. Close this. I have my index. Close this, and close this. Okay. So let's save this again, and you can see it restarted. So it's going to say create table if not exists again. But if we add something else, I don't want to mess with this, but let's just do it. Cover name and just so we understand what we're going to do or what could happen. My cool new column. Let's save this, and okay, let's just close the process and start it again, and you can see. So let's just check it. Let's just refresh this. Okay, and you can see we don't have anything different inside our database or tables. Okay, even though we added a new, okay, and you can see it's reading that stuff. So we can do something. Let's close this and let's start it again. Okay, open, post. Okay, let's go to data. There's nothing new there, and there's nothing new here. So what if you want to, if you needed to add something, and you can also add migrations with Sequelize, but if you are still on early development and you say, I forgot this stuff. Damn, I need to add it. Then you can just say something like force true and save it. And what it's going to do, let me just go back here. You can see it added my cool new column there because we are forcing the changes. So it's removing everything and rebuilding once again. If you don't want to break anything, you can just leave it inside into sync without any object or property inside, and just continue with your development. Okay, but we need to say again first true because we want to remove this. And again, you can add migrations and add your stuff there. So let me just refresh this. Okay, and you can see we don't have that anymore. My cool new column or something like that. So we want to keep that state, and let's just say sync and keep it like that. What could happen if I let enforce set to true or force set to true? Then every time I restart my server, it's going to destroy my data. Even if I have some information, it's going to destroy that, wipe it out, and rebuild the table as a new table. Okay, so now we can add stuff using just the sync, and don't worry or not worrying about removing the data that we have or that we will have inside the database. Okay, so I think that's all for this one, and see you in the next one.